Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Sounds Like NYC. And today's guest is Dirty Circuit, formerly known as the Employees, consisting of guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter
Patillo?
Pa- Owen Patillo and the
Oh,
Patillo.
bassist.
just like
Listen again. Listen again.
All right,
no, not even that. Like, just putting it out there. We always suck at names.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. Now I get Patillo all the time.
I
Yeah,
can't
it's
hear
a
my-
double-
It's the
It's,
double L. People assume it's the
Yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Patillo.
Is this Patillo?
Oh,
Yeah.
like Ariana Grande. It's Grandy.
Shut up.
I swear to God.
Nah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
Swear to God.
If it's Italian, if it's like Latin based, it would be there.
Well, she's like Italian American. She's not like Italian.
It's not Grandy. I refuse to believe that. Are you serious? That's
Go.
weird.
You can ask her.
Oh yeah, just like call
Call
her
her
up.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that from the beginning. So hey guys, welcome to this episode of Sounds Like NYC, and today we have on the band known as Dirty Circuit, formerly called the Employees. Dirty Circuit consists of guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter Owen Pastillo.
How do you fuck it up twice? How do you
Dude,
fuck
I'm
it up
so
twice?
sorry.
Just say Owen.
Owen.
Just
Owen.
Owen.
Yeah,
P.
sure.
No one needs to know your
Yeah,
last
yeah,
name.
yeah.
I don't want people to look you up and then find where you live
Yeah.
and take that guitar
sure, yeah.
from you.
Consisting of guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter Owen P. and bassist, vocalist, songwriter Pertz Kelly. Nick Pertz Kelly. See, I got the one right.
That one's easy.
They started they started the band in 2017 with two other friends who have now since departed the project, jamming in the basement of their high school. Hey, just like us back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've played shows in the New York youth DIY punk scene for the past year and a half. Dirty Circuit draws inspiration from many sorts, including punk, post-punk, grunge, psychedelia, and classic rock. So yeah, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having
Cool.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about messing
Thanks,
up your last
guys.
name like
Yeah,
8
dude,
times.
I am so sorry.
It's okay. You know, it inspires me to get like some kind of stage name. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like Owen P would be like a nice stage name. I don't know. It's simple and
Or
like
maybe.
it's not like totally like
No,
kind
because
of
then it'd be
like-
so easy to make fun of him. Like, oh yeah, Owen Pease. You know what I mean?
if
Maybe
you're like
that's
in
just
fifth
me.
grade.
Yeah.
If you're like in fifth
I have a
grade.
fifth grade humor.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of school.
Oh
you know.
man.
Yeah, they'll like when there's two kids with the same name in the class.
Yeah.
Oh.
That always frustrated
yeah.
me. I'm like, why you gotta add letters to my name? Because I got a common name. You know.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, you're telling me my name's David.
Yeah, my name's Daniel, like
So,
the
like-
most generic.
I mean, but the good thing is, if we ever like to go out to like, fucking like on vacation or whatever, we could always find our name on keychains.
Mm.
That's always cool.
That is true. Like I didn't realize that
Yeah,
as like
yeah.
a kid. I like always look my name for those like out of state keychains
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess that's like pretty
No,
cool.
no one
My
ever.
friend
No one
Jamari
ever,
couldn't find one. You know what I mean?
no one ever mispronounces my name. It's like
Yeah.
it's easy. It's good.
Yeah.
Is it Nicholas?
Nike?
So how you guys been?
Pretty good. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do we?
Yeah.
I'm
I mean, what have we been doing? I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't
man.
know.
guys- what have you
been up
guys
to?
been doing?
Yeah, okay, so like ever since kind of like the what do you call it? Kind of like the performance at like McCarran Park, like 2 weeks ago. Have you guys been like working on music or just chilling or like yeah?
Well,
Uh,
or you can.
yeah. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
We were intending to have a show this past weekend. We had sort of set up the one at McCarran Park. I didn't actually set up. That was Pink Clouds set that one up, and we were kind of just like we were talking to them in Tompkins Square Park. We kind of ran into them. We have some people who kind of like somewhat mutual friends, or mutual acquaintances. I don't know. We wound up talking to them, and they invited us to play a show. So that's how we wound up playing that gig at McCarran. But we were sort of like setting up our own show, which I've done a little bit of, which was going to be in Fort Greene Park, but I don't know. They closed the schools and they sort of started doing more restrictions, like because the COVID rates were getting worse, and like I don't know. I sort of felt like maybe I shouldn't do this. People were kind of moshing a little bit at the last show, and I don't know. I just felt a little weird about putting on a
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
when it might be spreading the disease, the COVID.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
speaking
shame.
of which, like that, like performance, like at McCarran
Yeah,
Park. I
tell us a
mean,
little bit about that. 'Cause,
yeah.
like,
So like, how did it like
yeah.
start? Like was it kind of like a last moment sort of thing? Like because you guys heard, Biden won the election. Did you guys just decide to do it, or was it like planned whether or not Biden won, or like just like
No,
tell us
no.
how that performance came together?
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of it is that like Biden, we didn't even know Biden would have won
Oh
until
yeah.
that, yeah, because we had no idea when they would have the votes counted, and we were planning the show way before, so we had no idea.
Started
And then
playing.
all of a sudden, it was like that afternoon, I was walking to the show, and I was like, oh shit, like this is gonna be so great, like all these people are so happy, you know. And that was why it was that was part of why it was such a great show, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we planned it a week ahead. Actually, what wound up happening is we wound up playing two sets that day. We played one set earlier in the day. It's actually kind of crazy how things came together because we had we like didn't really our usual drummer at the time, he like wasn't actually available. So then we had like another drummer who came in last minute, and I was like out of town until like the day before the show, so like I didn't even get to practice with him. It was sort of very last minute thrown together, and then it happened to like that morning I was like in my house and I just heard people yelling on the street, and I'm like, oh, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Do you
I was
think?
like, oh shit, like, oh, Trump's gone, like it's over. And I was excited, right? Personally, a little less excited about Biden, but it's not Trump, so
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that's the whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Just
the whole
like
thing, right? Yeah, that
yeah,
day was like celebrating Trump's loss, not like
more,
Biden's
yeah,
victory.
exactly.
yeah.
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 And then I don't know. So then it was that, and then the show happened, and but we played one set kind of earlier in the day, and another band that was going to play Hello Mary was the third band that was playing in addition to us and Pink Clouds, which I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and we they were supposed to bring us the like amps and the equipment, sort of the larger amps, I guess was mainly what it was, because we need louder stuff for the type of music that we play, and we weren't able to have that for our first set. So we played a decent set, and also I had never played with the drummer before. Owen had practiced with the drummer, but I hadn't played with the drummer before. So it was a decent set, but I don't think it was like great. And then Hello Mary showed up like right at the end of the set. They're like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry, we're late. Like, would you guys want to sort of play at the end of our set? We have an hour. We probably won't fill an hour." And we were like, "Sure." And then we asked the drummer from the Clouds, we're like, "Do you think that you could?" Because their set was probably going to be like 45 minutes. We're like, "Do you think that we could use your drums for another 15, 20 minutes after this thing was supposed to end?" And he was like, "Sure, it's fine." Um, so then we kind of, that was very last minute thrown together. We were like, all right, let's do this set. We kind of came up with a set list of like some of the songs that we hadn't played during the actual show, and some of the songs that we thought maybe we could play again because people liked, or because like we had a technical issue on one of them. Anyway, and then it was like one of the best sets I've ever played, I think. I had a great time. I mean, the energy was like there were fireworks going off while I was playing. Like
Yeah, it was
that's
crazy.
not
It
a
was
thing
crazy.
that I'm gonna have happen again, at least anytime soon. To like be playing a show and there's just like everyone's having, just celebrating all around you. It was really like kind of a spontaneous, amazing experience.
Yeah, because when I had came, because I was just like walking around McCarran, just like trying to capture footage of all of the partying and stuff like that. And like when I like stumbled upon you guys, like you guys already had like a pretty good crowd around you and surrounding. Like everybody was just like moshing, and it was, man, like I hadn't had that experience in like such a long time, and it actually reminded me of high school. No, not of college shows that I used to go to, like basement shows and stuff like that. So like,
Yeah,
thank you guys for like that. It was a really good set, and especially having that drummer come in, last minute. Like you guys killed it, and yeah,
thank
so
you, thank you.
it was an awesome set.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think
much, man.
to speak on the, I'm just gonna say briefly because I find that I wind up filling up a lot of airspace. I want to let Owen talk, and I want to let you guys, I don't know if you have stuff planned to ask, get to that, but to sort of just talk about like the sort of like you're saying college shows, like house shows and basement, like a lot of that is what we were sort of playing and going to, just, and not necessarily playing but just attending. Like that was kind of the world we were in before COVID hit, and you couldn't really go inside anywhere anymore. Like we played shows in friends garage. It's it was weird. She has a garage that's pretty like close to downtown Brooklyn, which is wild. That you have a garage there, but it used to be like a carriage house. Like for I don't know, like Clinton Hill, there's like some mansions, and it's like a few blocks away.
It's
So
like
her house is like what used to be the
Those horses.
carriage house for the mansion. So there's like a garage in it. Anyway, but we played a few shows in there, and I don't know, we played house shows. I don't know. That was kind of the just you saying that was like, oh, that's definitely like what we're coming from.
Yeah, yeah.
So when did you guys first start playing music together? Like, take us back to that day that you guys decided, you know what, this is the guy.
Oh, and you want to take that one?
Yeah. Well, I started playing music in like middle school, and I was in the school band there, and like as soon as I got into high school, I was like, oh damn, I need to start a band. So like I went into the lunchroom and I saw like a group of these guys sitting at a table, and I was like, okay, I'll go over there and like ask them if they want to jam or something, And like the guys that were sitting at the table were like Nick and like our other two guys are Max Sermonti, our old drummer, and like there were some other people there, but we all came down to the basement and had this like really cool jam on like Hey Jude or something, I think, and I was like, wow, this is the shit, and like we kept jamming like every single day in the basement, and like most of the people like did their other things, but like Nick, Max, and like eventually Max Miller, who was the sax player, they were the people who stayed, and like and that became what is now what was the Employees, now Dirty Circuit.
Yeah, that was that changed reviews. We could talk a little bit about that later. I don't know, but yeah, sort of. I had a similar thing coming into that. Was like my dad told me, he's like you should join a band. Like when you get there, you should join a band. That's like the thing you should do. Because like my dad is unlike Owen's dad, my dad's not really a musician. Like he plays guitar a little bit. And he's sort of like, I don't know, he's excited. He sent me to music lessons when I was little. He's like excited about the idea of me being a musician. And I think he took piano lessons when he was younger, and then he wound up sort of quitting. And I think he was like wanted to not have me do that. He wanted me to stick to it because I think he really likes the idea of having music in the house and stuff. And that was impressed upon me as well. And he's like, you should join a band. So then when Owen was like, oh, do you want to jam? Like, what's that? And I played bass a bit. I wasn't great at the time, but I was all right, I think. And then, I don't know, I got excited about that. And then, I don't know. And then, yeah, it was basically what Owen said. We were kind of what became the band was just the people who were willing to be there every day. And it was pretty much every day at lunch. We would just like, I would eat my lunch during Spanish class, and I would just play music at lunch just every day. And I think we got a lot of like good cohesion and sort of like a lot of good communication through that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because like I never really. It's kind of funny because. Oh, sorry. No, it's kind of funny. Just like how like you guys are like or like how your like parents pushed you guys towards like music and like weren't like really like against it, because I feel kind of like the old stereotype is kind of like parents wanting their kids to do music just to give something for them to do, but once they want to start doing music like professionally or start or want to like take it beyond like a hobby, like it's either they're like all for it or they're like really against it. But it's like really cool that you guys have like parents who are just supporting you from the very beginning, because for me it was kind of like the exact opposite. Like I got into guitar and my mom just like because I was like always pushing her, asking her to get me lessons and stuff like that, and she was okay with that, and I played at church sometimes and things like that. But the first time I kind of like expressed the idea of wanting to go pro with it, she was like, no way. And it took like a couple of years to like change her mind. So just I'm pretty jealous of you guys to be honest. Yeah,
there is also to a certain degree, I mean, it's like I'm applying to college right now. I'm sort of towards the end of like sending in my applications. I'm sort of like almost done with that. It's the whole thing, but I'm mostly applying to like architecture schools. So there is sort of that thing of like, maybe don't go to school for me. Like I'm a minor in music, but sort of maybe don't go to school for music. Like architecture is sort of a way to do like art, but have it also be like, once you get out of there, there's a job from that. There's, I don't know, there's always things about that thing. as well. There's sort of that additional thing. I don't know. I think it goes both ways, but I think definitely my parents were supportive. I think maybe part of it, not to be cynical, I think they were supportive just genuinely out of like music's great, but also that like our school has sort of known. We went to, I guess we still go there, but like it's online. It's, I don't know. I'm probably not going to go back to that building. But Beacon, it's like on the sort of in Midtown by Times Square.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
whole neighborhood. But it's sort of known to have quite a fairly good music program for like a non-art school.
Mhm.
So some of that was like, because I was taking music lessons in middle school, and it was like, now we don't need to pay for music lessons because you go to a good music program.
Kill two birds with one stone sort of thing, right?
What do you say?
No, just like killing two birds with one stone sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned architecture because like we actually went to a school for architecture.
Yeah, like Williamsburg High School for architecture and design.
And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But that's just me.
I remember seeing that like at the high school fair when I was in 8th grade, and I went to Brooklyn Tech to see
Oh
like,
yeah, that whole thing.
that exists, and you walk around like not really knowing what you're doing. I remember I saw that school.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you did make the right decision not going.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't imagine you going there. It was a very interesting school, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, but like
I guess what do you guys attribute the lineup changes like for? Like what do you think that happened?
I don't know. Do you want me to speak on that, Owen, or do you want to speak on that? It was fairly recent. I don't want to like sort of talk badly of those guys.
just like shit talk them. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I mean, we love those guys. It's just, I mean, things are changing now, and like now that things are, really, it's like the change happened like when it was like we started playing concerts and we weren't like jamming in the basement anymore. You know what I mean? So it was kind of difficult to like get that like managing aspect of the band as well as like the like fun and music part, and they were having trouble just blending that together, I think.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, sort of we've been like, I mean, we've been playing shows for about a little more than a year and a half now, like out like at venues or at house shows and stuff like that. And I think it worked for a while. I think especially with COVID, it kind of made it difficult. Like there was kind of a break in continuity there. And then it's also like the people who you meet on the first day of high school aren't always going to be the people who you wind up hanging out with. And it sort of became like we're mostly hanging out with them in the context of the music, and that was fine. I don't know. There's a lot of aspects. I don't want to get into too much detail because it's still fairly fresh, and like I don't know. I don't want to misrepresent people or talk ill of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, but what do you think makes a good bandmate? Like having gone through a lineup change.
I mean, I think I would say like just you gotta. I don't know. I feel like you have to be on the same page or something. Like one, you have to be dedicated to what you're doing and dedicated to like the music and being like, okay, I'm gonna prioritize this over other things. But I think also, even if you're doing that, it also has to be like you have to be on the same page, kind of like artistically, and you have to be like, okay, you have to be on the same page about what you're trying to create. Like
Sure,
this past summer, Owen and I had kind of a lot of discussions because I think a lot of our earlier stuff is like, we started out as like a high school band, and we're basically doing like Rolling Stones and Beatles covers because that's what you do when you're starting. And like, we're a rock band. That's what we're gonna do. And we performed at like the show at school and stuff. And then I think it kind of came from that. We were sort of doing kind of classic rock stuff, and then we sort of moved away from that. And I think more recently, this past summer, we were kind of trying to talk to each other about like, okay, what direction do we actually want to go with this artistically? And I think a lot of influence of the music that I kind of am more making or want to make now is based on like the shows that I went to. Like I discovered like shoegaze music.
Oh yeah,
going to shows. Like there's this band, I'm not totally sure if they still exist. I don't know. They had some stuff going on. They haven't.
Like, do you want to mention them?
What were you saying?
Oh, like what's the name of the band?
It's a local band. They're called Big Pity.
Okay.
And they sort of like introduced me to the concept of shoegaze. The guitarist is this guy, Dave Hernandez.
Mhm.
He's an amazing guitarist, and but I don't know, just sort of like seeing him play. I mean, seeing all of them, but just I don't know, just I just wanted to shout him out because he's an especially like, and he's a nice dude. I mean the rest of them are great too. I don't know why I said him specifically. But I just like seeing him play that music and seeing him like do a lot of stuff with pedals and sort of just create that wall of sound, and that band like creating like an atmosphere in the space is I think something that shoegaze music in general is very good at. And then and that's kind of what I don't know, that's what I like to do. Like I think I had a change in mindset, and again I feel bad I'm taking up a lot of airspace from Owen, but I had a change in mindset, like kind of I don't know, as I started to play more shows. Like when I was younger and I was playing the show at school, like on the stage that we have in the school building, and it's like, you know, most of the other bands were like they chose who was good, like the music teacher chose who was going to be in it. Our band was actually sort of unique in that, and then we kind of found each other. But there I kind of defined like whether a successful show whether a show was successful by like, oh no, I messed up a note 2 or 3 times, and now it's sort of much more like what type of like atmosphere was I creating for the audience, what kind of like communication was happening there, like how are people feeling in the room or not in the room, in the space as we've done these outdoor shows. I think that's a lot more important to me, and that's kind of what's inspired me. I kind of went on a tangent from your initial question there, but oh, and if you
That's
want to
okay.
go on the initial question.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, cause like, I mean, Owen, like, what do you think about or like what's like your take on that, like on the question that David asked before?
Um, could you repeat the question? Actually,
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, if you repeat the
I
question,
was
'cause
was
I think
into
you
whatever
forgot
Nick
too.
Shut up,
said.
mate. Why you gotta
You
expose
forgot
me like
too.
that? I
No, because
definitely
I
forgot.
know how you.
You know
I
how
know
I
you.
try to
I just know
finesse.
It's
that.
it's okay. Nick's
What do you think makes a good bandmate?
Yes, yes.
oh
See, I
yeah.
definitely
Okay.
knew that. I definitely remembered. Thank you very much. But yeah.
Um, I mean, I think there's kind of two paths that you can go down, and it's like you can either be like the really creative person who like brings in all these songs and like these riffs and like all these ideas, or you can be like the person who's like kind of passive in the band and like plays well and like will play what you want them to play. And if you can't be both people, like you can't kind of have creative control when you're not bringing in like creative ideas.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I
I
think that,
think
oh sorry,
Nick, you can, yeah.
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say,
that's what I have to say.
I think not to discredit the like. I think there is definitely a lot of creativity in still, or like in being the person, even if you're not the main creative force behind it. There is, you know, you're still bringing something to it, and that's still very important. But yeah, it is
Yeah.
sort of a different role, and I think kind of I don't know, having like I think part of the problem that we had in past is it sort of was like unclear what people's roles were and what roles people wanted, and I think that was what created some of the difficulty that we had that sort of led to that lineup change. Right now, we're kind of between drummers. We had a saxophone player. We may get another saxophone player. We're thinking that maybe we'll get a synth player. We're not totally sure where we're
Okay.
moving, but yeah.
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 So I guess now would be a good time to kind of like listen. Obviously, they're just from like, you know, version 1.0 of the band, I guess, because it seems like you guys are more or less becoming like a shoegaze band. It seems,
I mean, I
Sure.
don't know if that's
at least from like Nick's perspective.
Yeah.
but that's definitely one of the influences. One of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
stuff. As
I mean,
well.
it's tough to put yourself in a category.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
I'm not trying to say that I'm going to be creating this amazing work that's outside of any genre, but I think you're sort of trying to self-categorize yourself. Like obviously, I can speak to my influences, and Owen can speak to his influences, and I can talk about what we've talked about together for what we're trying to do creatively. But it's also sort of I sit down and he sits down, and you know each of us will write a song, and you can have any influences you want, but ultimately whatever genre you're going to be put into is what people hear from that. So, but I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
the music, if you're going to play some of our stuff, that definitely is sort of more in the classic rock direction, which is where I feel like we were earlier.
So what
We're getting radio again.
5-5, Iron President.
I just want to get out of this place. I don't want to make up my mind. Isn't it great how all your problems they can be solved by taking a pill? Everything's just how I like it. A little bit good, a little bit bad. I can't live without it. Everything's under control. I need what I need, and I don't need you telling me I need what I need, and I don't need you telling me. Every time.
I wanted to ask actually is like, cause like bands, once they have like a lineup change, it's either they change their name or they just keep on, going along with like the same, name and everything, even though there's like, different members. But what I want to know specifically is like, why did you guys change the name and why specifically to Dirty Circuit?
Yeah, because it seems like when somebody changes the name, it's just like they're just revamping the whole thing, just creating something completely new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the employees was Max Miller, who was the saxophonist, came up with that name, and it was kind of on the spot, and he just kind of went with it. So, I was never really satisfied with it, honestly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, once once he left, he asked us to change it, so we were like, well, we might as well change it.
I had the interaction with him. He didn't say that we should. I don't know. I think he sort of. It wasn't completely direct, but I don't know. It sort of, I could tell. It felt like one, he came
He's
up
gonna
with
use
it.
it himself.
I think neither Owen or I was completely satisfied with the old name, and I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know. It feels a little disrespectful to like keep that name on when he sort of made it known that he'd rather that we didn't. And we're trying to move in a new direction. I mean, we still have all the same songs. Like we're not starting from scratch from the songs. We intend to put out the songs that we've been playing at shows as the employees for the past year, but year and a half. But yeah, putting in a new name. I mean, and if you want to speak to what you were thinking behind that name, I think we tossed back and forth a lot of names, but I think you were the one who wound up putting out Dirty Circuit.
Well, I like it. Kind of has like a. Originally, we were just going to go with Circuit, but there are a couple of bands called Circuit, and but Dirty Circuit, I think.
Couple of bands, never like one.
I know, and it's always like you're finding it's always like metal bands. They have like
Every
we're
name,
gonna go with Anodyne for a while.
Yeah.
every name you think of, there's a metal band with that name.
Yeah.
It probably is, to be
Discover.
honest.
That's what you discover.
Yeah.
Any band name you can
Yeah.
think of, there's a metal band with that name, and they have it in the font and everything. The like.
I mean, did Owen, did you get like the name or like the dirty part from, dirty, like what's that band called? Like Dirty Loops, or which is just like place like a random adjective in front of like Circuit.
It's like band name
called it,
generator.
Yeah.
No, I think I went with Dirty probably because it's like a dirty circuit is kind of like a circuit that needs cleaning, and like it's like when you look at an actual like computer circuit, it's like the circuit's like screwed up or whatever, and and I like the imagery of the computer circuit, but also I like circular as a thing rather than like fucking circuit, because nobody really cares about like that. I just like the imagery of like a circle, and even like the dirtiness is like the brokenness of that circle, like it's kind of a little bit like messed up. It needs a little bit of cleaning. You know what I mean?
So was that more
Like
or less like
Circuit
a
City.
metaphor? Shut up.
Yeah, sure.
You don't know about Circuit City, though. So you're such an old man. You know what I mean? No, I'm just joking.
we were because another name that we thought of that was taken by quite a few bands, so we didn't wind up doing it. But was sort of something like based on the daisy chain, like for your pedal board.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I felt like
You guys
that.
really are going to become like a shoegaze band. You already like talk about the changes.
I know.
Like,
That's why I was a little bit.
about
I
circuit
don't
boards and
even know
stuff
what that
like
means.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are
I know. I don't even. I mean, I'm the bassist, and I'm like, I mean, he has more pedals than me, but I'm definitely like, especially recently have been kind of getting into pedals and getting excited about pedals.
I mean, like the Mars
probably.
Volta is like. Are you guys like fans of like the Mars Volta?
I haven't heard of those.
Are you serious? If you
No,
want to talk about kind of like a bassist having like too many pedals, then like the Mars Volta is like the band for you. I'll send you some of their stuff later
for
because
sure.
their like bassist actually like has like his own like YouTube channel dedicated dedicated to guitar pedals and like effects and stuff like that. So I think you'll love it.
That's cool.
Sick.
Yeah. But you were saying, sorry for interrupting
A
before.
bassist who sort of like, not that even it's really the type of music that I make, but sort of who I just think is really cool, sort of in terms of now I'm gonna forget his name. In terms of what he the kind of sounds that he can create that feels so far from what you think of from bass, which I think is obviously, your bass, you got to hold it down, and that's what a lot of what I do. But I don't know, I like the idea of, especially because a lot of times in shows, what we'll do is because we started jamming in the basement, so we spend a lot of time in shows, like we'll play all our songs, but a lot of times we'll go into a jam for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back into another song, and we'll start off a show with a jam, and it kind of draws it out. And I don't know, that's kind of a way to build energy. I think we do a lot of jamming in our performances in addition to the songs, like not even necessarily jamming on a song. I don't know, it goes in and out, but that's sort of a place to kind of experiment with different sounds. Now I remember his name, Brian Chippendale, from a band called Lightning Bolt, which is sort of a very like frenetic, I kind of call it like ADHD music. I don't even know what I call it, but like maybe it's metal. I don't know. It's sort of lots of like loud noises, but what he does with the bass with different pedals, I think he has the G string replaced with like a banjo string or something. But I don't know. Just being able to create these like far out sounds is something that's just really, really cool to me.
Oh, interesting.
That was all just
Male strippers called Chippendales. Male strippers are called Chippendales, I think.
And he replaced the G string with the
there you go.
banjo string.
There you go.
It's all coming together.
There we go. So, like, Owen, what do you think? Like, for you, I guess, like, what is the goal of Dirty Circuit? Like, what do you want to achieve with it?
I mean, it's interesting because like, I don't know, just in general, I think when I was starting like any kind of band, I had this idea that I was, we were kind of going to come in and like change music in this way, like bring like some kind of like, like a lot of like popular music is mostly like synth and like electronic kind of stuff. And there's not a lot of like guitar oriented, like, like authentic, like drums, acoustic kind of stuff. But I mean, that was when I was first starting the band, and now that there's like this DIY scene in New York that I didn't even know about until we started playing shows and stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of, I guess the goal is kind of the same in that we're kind of trying to, elevate the scene and kind of like bring it into the spotlight. And, I just think, bring cool kind of like interesting music like into the world. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, because like I didn't even know there was like a DIY house show scene in the New York City, because I always thought between like there being like sound, ordinances and stuff like that such a scene could even like happen. So like, do you guys mind talking about
for you, bro?
Yeah, I guess
there
so.
You go. Fuck ordinances.
But like,
we didn't ask Nick like what the goals were in his view.
I'm sorry.
Jumping.
No,
jumping.
No, it's all right. I'm gonna skip. You can skip a few questions for me because I'll just go on for too long.
That's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, I mean, goals. I'd say similar. Like, I think to bring sort of this like New York punk kind of like, even if the music isn't genre-wise super falling neatly into punk, I mean, I think what punk is like when you have sort of the post-punk of kind of like the 80s and stuff in the late 80s. Like, I think what sort of punk is has kind of exploded. It's sort of more about the ethos rather than like the genre or even the
Yeah.
aesthetic trappings. Even though you know a
Mhm.
lot of people who go to our shows and stuff do kind of like dress in a way that you'd label like, oh, that's sort of like a punk style of clothing, or like, you know, a 2020 version of a punk style of clothing. But I think it's much sort of more about the ethos and kind of about that, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, that DIY ethic, and kind of bringing, but to be able to bring that and bring that sort of sense of community and like that, I don't know, that type of energy. Because I think there's a lot of people who can sort of relate to that, sort of in New York, and I guess, you know, in the country, in the world broader, that, I don't know, kind of bringing that energy and bringing that spirit to a broader, like, because I think, I don't know, there's a lot of people who would be really into that. They would dig that shit, and they just don't know about it. And kind of bringing that stuff, I mean, bring the music, and also sort of the ethos around it to sort of a broader audience of people who might identify with it, I think is
Yeah.
my goal. And I don't know, I think Owen
Sure.
and I, not to be like self-congratulatory, but like, I really enjoy the music that Owen and I write, and I don't know, I want people to hear it. It's kind
No,
of
obviously, yeah. If you don't like enjoy the music that you make,
Just stop making it.
there's no point. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
as I was like asking before, I was rudely interrupted.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so like tell me about this whole New York, you know, DIY house show punk scene, because the first time I like experienced like, you know, kind of like, you know, house shows and stuff like that was, you know, when I went upstate for, you know, school and stuff like that. So I'm like very curious how like such a scene specifically survives in like a big city
not in Bushwick.
like New York. Yeah. Oh, what do you say?
I said a lot of it's in Bushwick.
Really?
Not
Yeah, that's not true.
That
Not
makes it-
anymore.
Well, not
Really?
well. I
I
mean,
mean,
so up until
now people are playing. Now people are playing shows wherever they can set up. You know,
In parks,
like we were
yeah.
playing. We're playing in Tompkins Square Park in the East Village,
Yeah.
and
I'm there.
Yeah.
yeah.
But like before
Um,
Corona started, how was the scene?
Yeah. Oh, you want
Yeah.
to?
I mean, it's always stood out to me because like the just ability to like just do things that like you know, like show organizers have, and like all these bands, um they just, you know, they just do shit, and like, and you know, it works out. Like there's not a lot of like rules around it. I mean, there's like, obviously there's problems like within the scene, but um you know, I mean, just mainly for an idea, like it's just the boundlessness of it, and like the ability to do shit and like not have a lot of consequences or whatever.
Yeah.
And just like the attitude as well is really
Yeah.
great to me.
I mean, I think it's a fairly unique, special thing. I think because I don't know. I don't know. People just will play, like, people play music at their houses, and from what I've talked to, sort of older people, it's kind of changed what it is, and it's become a lot bigger. I kind of started going to shows. I think a lot of it started out in kind of with people who are a little bit older, people who are sort of just out of college and maybe in college, and then there would occasionally be sort of high school bands, and there were a few of them playing at places like the Glove and like the Silent Barn. I'm not sure if that was going on at the Trans Pecos anymore. The Silent Barn was sort of a legendary venue that I attended my first show like a month after it closed. But sort of some of my slightly older peers will kind of talk about that as it's a, like sort of was like a legendary space. But I think it kind of came from that, and there were some bands, and then sort of more and more like kids and teenagers, sort of like people in high school and sort of in college as well. As people got older, there are more and more bands that people just started. I mean, there's a guy who, you know, people have complex feelings about. Some people don't like him. I'm not going to really talk about that. I don't want to say anything against him, but there's this guy, Max Drury, who did, and it wasn't only him, it was a lot of people who worked with him, and there's this collective in the Bronx called Hydropunk, who I'm not sort of totally, I don't know them very well, but they were doing a lot of similar stuff in the Bronx while people were doing it in Brooklyn. But he set up a lot of shows. He's the drummer in Big Pity, the band that I mentioned earlier, and I think he set up shows fairly frequently. and it was him and other organizers as well. But he was very visible in the way that he was doing his organizing, and um, I don't know, like he set up a lot of shows, and a lot of shows were happening, and it was kind of the frequency of it got people like, okay, what are we doing this weekend? We're gonna go to a show, and I got taken to a show by a friend of mine, who was actually taken there. She was taken there by a friend of hers, and I kind of went, and I was like, oh my god, this was the first show that I ever went to. It was a house show in Bushwick, sort of right by the line of Ridgewood, right by like Broadway, which is kind of like the area around which a lot of these house shows happen. There's a place called the Living Gallery around there, a venue that a lot of shows used to happen at before everything had to get shut down. But and I kind of lost my train of thought. I don't know. I just went to that, and I sort of saw this, and it was like, I don't know, there was like lights, and it was in the basement, and there was this band, Clovis, playing, who, again, I don't know, there's some people, there's, controversy surrounding them, as there's controversy surrounding the guy, Max Gray. There's a lot of, I don't know.
Controversy.
There are things, but that's sort of not the point that I'm going to speak to. But Clovis, the drummer, went to our high school. He was a senior when we were freshmen, and this was toward the end of my freshman year. And I went there, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, people were moshing, and I was like, wow. Like, I need to be like, her friend was sort of the guy who knew how this was. And I was like, how'd you know how this happened? He was like, I don't know, just through Instagram. And then I was like, I have to be the guy who knows when these shows are. So I sort of started following like different bands and sort of people who I knew, like looking through who like this band. Okay, who does this guy who I know is in this band? Who does he follow? Does he follow any bands? And sort of slowly finding this. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I kind of found the posters, and then I started playing more and more. And then sort of by a year from then, sort of towards that, a little more than a year from then, I sort of organized my own show with a friend of mine, and I don't know, and then it sort of moved from there, and it came from that sort of sense of wonder of like, this is sort of an amazing, unique thing, and these people are like playing this music, and I don't know, this is really fun. To then, and like I don't know any of them, to then it being like I kind of know all these people. And now I'm kind of on the other end where like there's younger people who come to my shows, and I'm like, I don't even recognize you. I don't know who you are. It's kind of crazy. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that I said about the DIY ethic and ethos, I think holds true as well for this. And I think there are definitely problems, and there is sort of like some shitty people in this scene, yeah. But I think generally it's far from perfect, but I think people are pretty good about self-policing and calling out shitty behavior, and I think that especially recently people have been good at that. So I think that's a positive.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well,
Actually, there's like one last thing that I wanted to mention earlier, but it's like a very interesting thing, because remember when I was talking about how I thought you guys were like younger than you guys are, and you guys really seem to have
older than you thought they were.
Oh yeah, I thought you guys were like older than you guys really are, and like just like my first impression of you like at McCarran Park and stuff like that was like a very professional band that has everything together, and I still think that's true, by the way. But it was like very interesting because you guys actually have a manager, and I never heard of a band, kind of like regardless of age and stuff like that, having the foresight or just like the thought of having like a manager or like somebody help out with social media. So do you mind talking about how you were able to like find a manager, and like how's that like working out for you? Because it's like very interesting.
I just want to speak a little bit and then I'll hand it to Owen. But I think it was sort of initially I was kind of handling a lot of that manager stuff, and I kind of was resistant to giving up that because I was like, I know that if I do it, it'll be done well. But it was getting to the point. It was sort of like we were trying to do sort of more and more ambitious stuff and like organizing things, and it was getting to the point where it was kind of stressing out. Like I wasn't able to enjoy our shows. And then I don't know, Owen, you can kind of. To Owen was like, we should get someone to sort of help with that. Not that Owen and like wasn't putting in work as well, but I don't know. Like in terms of organizing shows, I was doing a lot of that and kind of like coordinating with my brother. I got T-shirts made. I mean, that was a lot. My brother, I'm gonna give him credit for that, but I don't know. and like booking shows and stuff. And then, but yeah, Owen, you can talk more about Sophia, who's I guess our manager. I don't know if we officially call her that, but that's essentially what she does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sophia's been my friend since I was like, I don't know, like since I was born. Honestly, like we would we'd hang in Tompkins Square Park together, and you know, I've known her ever since. And she lives like across from me, so we've been talking, and she did a lot of like organization stuff for XR Youth, if you know that, Extinction Rebellion,
And it's like
that kind of stuff.
I'm an activism org.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we were doing all these shows, and like Nick was like really stressed out, and I saw that, and it was like kind of affecting how we were playing, and I was like, I don't want that to happen anymore. So I was like, why don't I just get Sophia to like come and help us out, because she's used to like organizing stuff, and like yeah, I mean, and also like we needed help with like social media stuff, which is a big part of, I think, like how to get your band out in the world today, you know. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's for sure about like I don't know, like knowing. I think part of the sort of professionalism that I feel like we try to have is like it's important, and the music is amazing, and it's fun to do music, but it's also like you want to get people on to help, you want to delegate, because ultimately, like, the goal is to make great music, and the goal is to have people hear it. So if you want people to hear it, you want to get yourself out there, and you just have to be like, I don't know, you have to be ambitious, and you have to be organized, because it's an artistic project, but it's like it's also like
It's a business.
It's a business as well. I mean, not that we're making
Yeah.
massive amounts of money, but like we have to set up. We're like, okay, we're gonna designate another friend of ours to be the person who goes around and asks, hey, do you want to pitch in some money so that we can cover the generator and maybe get us some more money to like invest back in this project, and then like you pay that person $20, and it's sort of like getting putting these structures in place and delegating to people and just trying to have an organizational structure to it. I think is sort of crucial to think about it in that way. I don't know, you need to have that and the sort of like the artistic vision to kind of to have like, I mean, to have a successful plan. And not that we are successful yet, but I think that sort of like is a thing that's helping us push in that direction. I think that's very important. And sort of, I think that's the idea behind trying to have that professionalism is, and also like with people who you work with, if you are professional, then they're like, okay, these people are serious, they're real, we can work with them again. And I think that's sort of, I don't know, because the goal is we want to move forward with this as much as we can.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of artists like miss that whole part, that you think that if they're good enough that it'll reach a lot of people. It's just not gonna happen just because of all
Definitely
the noise
not.
that there
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like in space right now.
Yeah,
So it's definitely it's really good that you guys have that foresight. What I was gonna ask, what I usually ask artists is like, how do you feel like New York City has shaped you as people and as artists?
Oh, and do you want to? I want to sort of let you speak before me, because I know I'm going to go on for a while. Every time, I don't know if you're not ready. I can talk.
Yeah. I think I need a minute.
I don't know. I sort of say, especially like New York City in general, but kind of, I don't know, especially like, I don't know. I come from Brooklyn, and I think a lot of ways that the city has like shaped my music is kind of going to these shows, and the fact that I have this sort of scene, this framework around me to like, I don't know, build like, I don't know, that audience that kind of exists already for similar types of music, and to have those people there. And then there's also, I don't know, I feel like like, I don't know, like the type of stuff that I write about, and especially the stuff that I've sort of started to write about more recently, is kind of very like urban and like, I'm from New York. I've lived here my whole life. I've never lived anywhere else for anywhere longer than a few months. And I don't know, just like Brooklyn and New York in general, and also spending a lot of time in the East Village because Owen lives there, and sort of there's a lot of people there. There's kind of like, of New York in general, but especially of the East Village, there's kind of like a lineage of musicians, and I don't know, sort of feeling like, okay, I'm part of this larger thing that's like both the scene and sort of more broadly, like people that you might not necessarily know, but it's like New York, things are happening, and like I don't know, to have that lineage there. I mean, like I don't know, the fact that like music, I don't know, there's a lot of like history to New York. I mean, the building that I live in was owned by that I like grew up in was owned by, I'm not gonna dox myself with this hopefully, but was owned
Well,
by
bleep it out.
a famous jazz, I'm not gonna say which one actually. A famous jazz big band like leader and sort of like different they used to come back here after they did their big band shows in the city and they would jam in what's now my living room, and now we sort of like we jam in the basement, and it's kind of like I don't know, to have that lineage. Like New York is a place where like music has been for a long time. Like I live in Fort Greene, which was sort of like a historical like center of, I mean, of specifically, and I'm sort of part of the gentrification of my family, I'm gonna say, but like of like sort of black arts, and like I mean Spike Lee's headquarters is in my neighborhood, and there's a lot of like history there, and I feel like sort of recognizing that and like building off of that wherever the history exists is kind of a cool thing that's unique to New York, or to at least big cities in general. But I don't know, New York's unique. It's its own shit.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. How about you, Owen?
Well, I think living in the East Village, you know, it's like the East Village alone has this connotation of like punk, and like, you know, CBGB is like a couple blocks away from me, or was a couple blocks away from me.
Yeah.
And actually, there used to be this place called Riffs that was like right next door, and I used to watch like people play shows there for a little bit, which was cool. And I mean, just looking at the people on the streets, you know, like these like, and in Tompkins Square Park, you get all these old punks that come through with like their black leather and like
old punks. Yeah.
I know. And I mean, just bringing back that legacy, kind of like, I guess, what's the word? Like building up off on that legacy, of like punk and like cool fucking music. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
and like New York as a whole, I mean, like walking down the street, it's just an experience, you know, like there's never a dull day in New York City.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, maybe now, but
not even. I mean, you'll go out there, you'll see anything. I think it's I don't know, the sort of like thinking of that legacy of like kind of like the downtown rockers and stuff, and like I don't know, like television and like I don't know, television, like the Velvet Underground, the Talking Heads, sort of that type of or like Patti Smith. I don't know that. I mean, I read Patti Smith's book earlier this year, and like I don't know, just to hear that stuff and talk about like hear her talk about oh, I'm walking down like Myrtle Avenue, which is like a few blocks from my house. Like she, you know, Robert Mapplethorpe went to Pratt, and sort of talking about like these are places that I'm familiar with. And she talks about going to Washington Square Park, and that's like a place that I hang out at often. I mean, Tompkins more so, but I don't know, just these locations and the fact that there is this history there. I don't know, it's just a really cool thing.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything that you guys want to end off with? Like any final quotes, words of inspiration?
Or plug your music.
Or plugs?
Anything.
Yeah, anything really.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of currently we're kind of moving towards trying to write, or not write, we have a lot of stuff written, trying to record a lot of the music that we have and kind of put it out there. I think stuff may, I don't want to be specific, but in the first half of next year, I think we'll probably have a good chunk of music out, maybe. I don't know, we're maybe gonna be recording some stuff, I think probably in January. I don't know, I don't want to say anything
for sure.
It seems like we have I don't know, there's a studio opportunity that seems like it's probably gonna happen. But yeah, so be on the lookout for that. Currently our music is on Spotify under the name The Employees, which is our band, the name that our band used to have. I think it'll be up under that. It'll be linked on our Instagram page. Our Instagram page is dirty.circuit if you want to look at that. That music is plugged there. I think it'll remain up on Spotify under that name until we start putting out new stuff, and then I think we'll shift it over to the other Spotify page. But check our stuff out. Based on how COVID goes, I'm not sure what shows we're gonna have in the future, but we'll try and do shows as soon as we can, outdoor shows, and then who knows how the vaccine's looking, but maybe sort of this summer some shows in indoor venues. But I think that's sort of what's coming up for us. Oh, and I don't know if you want to plug or add anything else.
I mean, just as a closing note, I guess, like, just remember to be you. That's what I have to say.
That's very important. Yeah, very important.
Yeah,
Don't
that was
forget.
great.
Someone's ever get to be me.
Yeah.
I'm you.
I don't want to be.
Sometimes I
You
forget.
don't want to be me.
I don't want to be you. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think it's important, even though I'm talking about like you have to think about it in some ways as a business, and you have to, be ambitious, and you have to be on top of things. You also can't lose sight of that, like that punk ethos about like kind of just self-expression and just, I don't know, creating things and creating community, and all that is like over like that. The other stuff is important for me to be for Owen and I to be, musicians and to want our stuff to be out there. But in terms of like what's important, ultimately, I think that's sort of like that's the shit that's important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on. And yes, this has been another episode of Sounds Like NYC. Thank you for watching. If you guys like this type of content, please subscribe, like, and yeah.
Show your mom. Show your uncle. Show your cat.
Are you telling them or like our
I'm
audience?
telling them.
Oh.
Well, and then not anyone else. So just show 'em.